First tonight, the Democrats' crazy train has yet another passenger because there he is. Well, crazy Uncle Joe Biden, after delaying his launch and then delaying it again, he has finally now jumped into the 2020 race. He is now the 20th Democrat running for president. That's a record. Now, what's going to happen next is going to be pretty remarkable as Joe Biden tries to court the new ultra-radical, extreme, socialist left Democratic Party and convince them, well, he's their guy. But even the bigger story is overseas, and that's surrounding Joe Biden's shady involvement with Ukraine. Breaking tonight also, if you remember, John Solomon explained on this program, while Joe Biden was vice president, his son Hunter took a lucrative job at a major Ukrainian energy company. And by the way, there's also Peter Schweitzer on the China deal. But when the company became the subject of a corruption probe in the country, Biden used his influence and your money to literally get the lead prosecutor fired, bragged about it. We'll play the tape. As Solomon reported, the prosecutor was actually investigating Biden's son. And Biden used the threat of pulling U.S. state aid dollars, your tax dollars, if they didn't fire the prosecutor. This is a huge developing story. Let's take a look and remind you of what he had said.
We're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a got fired.
Oh, 6 hours, American money. Same guy? Really? Okay, investigating your son. Now, we have been reporting on Ukraine, attempting and admitting they tried to influence the 2016 election. They are offering this country the evidence on behalf of Hillary. Question now is, where are all the people that are so worried about collusion? Now, tonight, the story surrounding Ukraine gets even murkier because John Solomon, breaking news right now, a new bombshell piece that details how the Obama White House actually worked with Ukraine to give the Russia collusion narrative an early boost. Joining us now to explain is the Hill's John Solomon. John, this is huge.
Yeah, it is. It's the first known instance where we have the Obama White House very early, just as Donald Trump is rising in the polls, even before the first primary election, getting involved. And what happened was the Obama White House, the National Security Council, invited all the Ukraine authorities over, the prosecutors, anti-corruption investigators, held a meeting in January 2016, just before the beginning of the primaries, and said, listen, we'd like to find some new way to reinvigorate an old case. This was a case called the Party of Regions case, the case where there was money being paid to lobbyists like Paul Manafort and also the former Obama White House counsel, Greg Craig. They asked, could you help us get that restarted? It set in motion this mad scramble in Ukraine, ultimately results in the discovery of a ledger, which gets leaked with only Paul Manafort's name. They left Greg Craig out. And that starts the whole Russian collusion case. So what you have is the beginning of the Russian collusion narrative starting in the Obama White House.
All right, John, I thought we were going back to the tape. John, thank you. Let me ask you this, because we showed the first tape of Joe Biden. Now, how certain are we that they have evidence that this prosecutor that he was telling on tape, bragging about having gotten fired using American money, how certain are we that that prosecutor was investigating his son at the time?
Oh, it's irrefutable. I have in my possession documents from the Ukraine General Prosecutor's Office that state that they were, one of the questions and one of the people they wanted to interview was Hunter Biden, specifically about $3 million. Now, that's the figure the Ukrainians came up with. Separately, the FBI came up with their own bank transactions in New York going into a company controlled by Hunter Biden, same amount of money, $3 million out of Ukraine from that energy company, Burisma, into the United States. So the FBI and Ukraine have the same evidence. The question is, what was that money for, and was it in any way improper? That's what needs to be investigated, and the Ukrainian authorities would like to provide that evidence as Joe Biden now begins running for the president.
All right, pretty amazing. John Solomon, thank you for that report. We're going to ask the president for his reaction in a few minutes. Now, beyond Biden's shady international dealings, well, he faces an uphill climb and already doing everything he can do to try and cozy up to the far left of his party. Look at his rollout video.
I believe history will look back on 4 years of this president and all he embraces as an aberrant moment in time. But if we give Donald Trump 8 years in the White House, he will forever and fundamentally alter the character of this nation, who we are. And I cannot stand by and watch that happen.
Who we are, record low unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workplace, and youth unemployment. We have literally wage growth stagnant for 10 years. Really? Now it's back better, stronger than ever. That's hateful? That's bad for America? I don't think the American people think so. Despite Biden's attempts to appease this far-left radical socialist base of the Democratic Party, well, they're already sounding the alarm against him. Now, in a new tweet from the group Justice Democrats, the same group behind the rise of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who I call Speaker Nancy Pelosi, only in name only. Well, the group wrote, Biden is, quote, out of touch with the center of energy in the Democratic Party today. And don't forget, Congressman Ocasio-Cortez already went firmly on the record. She does not want Biden to be the nominee, and we'll remind you.
This idea that we can go back to the good old days with Obama's vice president, and I think, you know, there's an emotional element to that, but I don't want to go back. I want to go forward.
And look at this article from the liberal website Slate comparing Biden to Jeb Bush, calling him a weak establishment candidate. A headline in the AP reads, quote, some women of color frustrated by Biden's presidential bid, raising even more questions about his campaign's appeal based on past statements on integration and busing. And get this, it looks like Biden may not even have the backing of his old boss, Barack Obama. And the best part is how Uncle Joe's trying to spin this, well, uncomfortable truth. Take a look.
Why didn't President Obama endorse you?
I asked President Obama not to endorse, and he doesn't want to. Whoever wins this nomination should win it on their own merits.
Great question, Peter. Does anyone actually believe that? Anyone actually believe that Barack Obama was all set to endorse him and Joe stopped him? Well, let not your heart be troubled, Joe, because the big coveted endorsements are already rolling in, like from Conspiracy TV, darling, disgraced, indicted attorney Michael Avenatti tweeted this about Biden. He offers Dems the very best chance in 2020, especially in key states. He has the fight, intelligence, fortitude to beat Trump and begin to make America again. He has my enthusiastic support. Oh, and Biden bragging, saying, all these foreign leaders are begging me to save the country and the world. Really? Getting a little Messiah complex? Anyway, remember, Biden enters the race already trying to fend off scandal after scandal. Multiple women have accused him of inappropriate touching, kissing, touching, actual video footage of Biden's disturbing touching antics. Doesn't this alone immediately disqualify in the eyes of the Democratic Party? If Biden was a Republican, what would they be saying? The double standard is on full display. Now, our friends over at Campus Reform decided to ask college students what they think of his behavior. This is interesting. Let's take a look.
What's your initial reaction when you see these videos?
That's really creepy.
Yeah, ew.
I'd say it's a little on the strange side. They've got a lot of different clips there, which is obviously doesn't look very good for Joe Biden.
Definitely creepy that various of ages of women too, so it's not just, it was young women and a little bit older women, so it's just very wrong, and that should not be a thing.
Yeah, I think it's a classic example of men not responding to being around women properly.
Oh, and there's a report tonight, New York Times, that he called Anita Hill. She was not particularly impressed that he understands his position back during the Clarence Thomas hearings. Got trouble there. Now, despite all these early troubles, President Trump did offer a warm welcome to former Vice President Biden, tweeting, quote, welcome to the race, Sleepy Joe. It will be nasty. You're going to be dealing with people who truly have some very sick and demented ideas. But if you make it, I'll see you at the starting gate. And by the way, I wonder if the media will ever ask crazy Uncle Joe about some of these finer moments that he's had over the years. Let's take a look.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent to fully. I'm not joking.
What kind of a chance would a northeastern liberal like Joe Biden stand in the South? better than anybody else. And you don't know my state. My state was a slave state. My state is a border state. My state is the 8th largest black population in the country. You got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook.
Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
So, of course, now Anita Hill not a fan and is touching and his gaffes and his creepy behavior may be in the spotlight, but he has even bigger scandals brewing. Remember, Biden has to run on Obama's economic failures. That was Biden-Obama. Their foreign policy blunders, like the ridiculous Iran deal. And you could expect another apology tour for America. Who would ever drop $150 billion in cash and other currency on the tarmac of radical Islamic mullahs who chant death to America and threaten to annihilate America and Israel? Why would anybody ever do that? You want to go back to that? And even bigger than that are the questions surrounding Obama's White House's role in the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal in our nation's history. Remember the 2016 Russian meddling? That all happened on Biden and Obama's watch. That means, yeah, they're responsible. The dirty dossier, the rigged investigation into Hillary, the FISA abuse, the use of an informant to spy on the Trump campaign. Yeah, it's all creeping closer and closer to the Obama White House. How high up did it go? How did this all start? What did they know? When did they know it? Hillary Clinton continues to fuel her collusion fantasy, saying she was the victim of, quote, a Russian plot. Wow. Like we've been telling you, an avalanche of truth is coming cascading down. It will expose the deep state, those that abuse power, and this attempt to unseat a duly elected president. We'll have more later in the program.